Hi there, this is Sunny from Sunny Side Up Journals, and today I wanted to give you a tour, not a flip through because it's not complete, but a tour of my watercolor journal. I've had watercolor journals that I have purchased before, but none of them really seemed personal enough to me. They were also really big, and all the pages were very, very stark and blank, of course, because that's what store-bought journals are like. And so I saw Wendy Solganic. She had built herself a watercolor journal, and I was inspired by her. I'll leave a link to her Instagram below. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to make one for myself. So this is just a tour. I'm not going to show you how I made it. If you're interested, you should take her course. But I just want to show you what mine looks like. So, okay. So the wrap is sari silk. I have a lot of fiber in my life because I am a fiber artist as well as a journaler. And so I have that. And then it's 3 different signatures. And I just went sort of with the 3 lines on the spine here. This fabric is actually left over from a quilt that I made for my one of my kids, so it means something to me. And this is actually made from fabric left over from a quilt for one of my other kids. So it's so special to me. I knew I was building this for myself, so I included those fabrics that I have special emotional ties to. So again, I said that this is not full by any means. It's mostly empty, but I will say that I put my own logo here. This is my fiber shop, Sunny Side Up Crafts. I also sell my journals through that website, through my website there. Okay, 3 signatures. Each one, I don't know, about yay big. And this is not going to get super chunky because it's not a junk journal. I'm not going to be gluing and adding a lot of tip-ins or anything like that to this journal. I'm only using it for watercolor play. I'm not using it for big old watercolor, like masterpieces. I'm just using this as sort of like a play space for myself. So it is very playful. This is actually gouache, which is, I would say, a take on watercolor because it is water-based. That is one that I did. And you'll notice that every so often I have a page that is fodder or like marked up paper that is not watercolor paper. So this is vintage sheet music. This is, I can tell by how it feels, it's Arches 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, so the good stuff. It's one of my favorites. This is just like a slice out of a marked up or painted on knitting pattern that I had printed out and finished knitting up. This feels like Canson XL. It's like thick but not. Doesn't have the tooth that Arches does. Here's some more of that paper. Arches. This is one of my like collaged papers that I also sewed various things onto. It's got one of my yarn tags that was recycled. And what I really like about having these pages in here that are not watercolor paper is that it gives me some color inspiration. It also gives me just the sense that like this journal is mine. Everything about this is mine. This is my under paper and my swatches, my tag that I put on my yarn that I sell. My sewing machine ran through this in these funny little zigzags. I mean, everything about this is very me. This is from a set of the Caran d'Ache Neocolor crayons that I got. It comes with this little thing. I stuck that on there, sewed it in, fodder that I made. And I think that with pieces like that are so me, this is just, I mean, look, it's hideous, right? But underneath this is actually a pattern that I designed, of a shawl that I designed. And then I messied it up for fun one day. This is a bus in Chicago. Pieces of fodder that I made. I mean, all of these little inserts in here, even though I could never buy this, not even though, because I could never buy this in a store, in an art supply store, this is that much more precious to me. Some watercolor play that I was doing here, just blending a couple of different colors. Again, this is not going to be hung up in any art museum. I wouldn't even share this on social media, but it was a chance for me to just like play with watercolor that day. This is this stencil, and I just wanted to see how the watercolors mixed. I was doing that as practice for fodder school. Just a lot of stuff. This is a day. I should have stamped the date on it, but I looked at this watercolor on the vintage music, and I thought, wow, it really, I'm loving those greens. I want to paint something with those same colors, and that's what I did there. So it gives me color inspiration as well. So that's signature number 1. Most of this, again, is very blank. It's blank watercolor pages with little pieces of fodder built in. This is when I was going to town with my jelly plate. Oh yeah. Dictionary paper with watercolor swatches on them. And maybe here I will do something that is in this color family. If I want. I don't have to. This, I decided to play around with these colors here with watercolor. That was a blast. Doing a little tutorial that I saw online, or maybe it was from the book that I have by This Writing Desk. This is another tutorial of hers that I did. This is this stencil, like that I played around with acrylics one day before putting it in. Like this was the way it was before I even built the journal. More watercolor swatches. I threw in an envelope here, which is fun. Some more jelly printed papers. A notebook paper that's been jelly printed and stenciled on. That's signature number 2. And signature number 3 is much the same, but different. Right? Same but different. I have some earthy colors here, some purpley, cool blues, aquas there. I have oranges and peaches and like rust. Pinks. I love my pinks. Lots of different colors that I can be inspired by. And lots of different kinds of watercolor. That's the other thing. When you buy a watercolor book from a shop, from an art supply store, you're going to get all the same paper, and sometimes I just want to use thicker paper. Sometimes I want to use like a thinner. Sometimes I'm craving that gourmet, paper. Sometimes I'm like not feeling it and I want something a little bit more, smoother, like hot press. So I put a lot of different kinds of watercolor paper in there. Love this palette. Would love to do that. See how it's mostly blues and aquas with a little bit of yellow in there? I think that'd be really pretty. And I believe that is near the end. Love how that turned out. Oh, this color palette is to die for, isn't it? Browns and pinks together, that warm brown, warm gray, and that sort of rose color. Ooh, I think that could be really pretty. I'm getting inspired by my own journal. So that's it. And I put this little button on. This is a vintage button that a friend of mine gave me a jar full of vintage buttons that she found. So I use them to make journals for myself in that way. And here's the sari silk that I'm going to use sari silk ribbon that I'm going to use to enclose that. And that's a tour of my watercolor journal. Again, it is not for grand works of art. It is really for me to play in. This is a little, and it's the perfect size. It's a little, like, what is it? Like 5x6, 5x6 chunky journal with a lot of frills, a lot of fraying. That is just so me. I hope you enjoyed this tour. I hope it inspires you to create your own watercolor journal. If you're interested in me making one for you, I'm happy to take custom orders. Just shoot me a message. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.